first of all, it's important to note that we're in first century CE, so some background information, I guess, before we dive into it. And the birth narratives that we're reading today are in Matthew and Luke. The only time that these birth narratives are really discussed ever, yeah, you might make an exception for a chapter in John where someone briefly asks, um, where were you born? Were you born in Bethlehem? How can you be a Messiah if you weren't born in Bethlehem? Um, but, that's John. But the birth stories that we're talking about are chapters 1 and 2 of Matthew and Luke, which is actually a relatively late writing for the New Testament. So the Gospel of Mark was written before Matthew and Luke, and most of Paul's writings were written before Matthew and Luke as well. So, and there's stuff that's written later than these two books too, but it's relatively late, at least 50 years after Jesus died. So we're around 80 CE when this is being written.
And Matthew and Luke, were they disciples?
Yeah, okay, so that's a good, we'll talk about this more at some other episode. But so Matthew is listed as a disciple, and Luke is a companion of Paul. But the names that we've attributed to these books are just names. The authors are anonymous.
Oh.
So we don't know who's doing this. They've just been attached later on to give it kind of some sort of, the Gospel of Matthew, the Gospel of Mark. I know what you're talking about.
So they didn't write them.
No,
Matthew and Luke. No. Matthew the tax accountant and Luke the physician did not write these.
No, they did not. That's a whole big discussion. We can talk about that some other point. But for now, we can assume the Gospels are anonymous.